Well, joining me now on the programme to talk a little bit about what is happening in Kusra and in the West Bank more broadly is Allegra Pacheco. She is the party chief of the West Bank Protection Consortium, which is a humanitarian assistance programme in the region. She joins us now from Jerusalem. Thanks for making the time to speak to us today. First of all, as somebody who works on the ground pretty closely, what's your reaction to these scenes in Kusra?
Yes, it's not the first time settlers are besieging people's homes, but what we're seeing is an escalation in methods. The issue is not intimidation, it is way beyond. We are talking about concerted attacks, injuries, even the use of sexual violence. We have done a full report on that by Israeli settlers with the agenda to push Palestinians off their land. We have to remember we're talking about occupied territory. There's a whole international legal framework in which the International Court of Justice ruled 2 years ago that the Israelis have not fulfilled their obligations as an occupying power and therefore needs to leave. And this is an example of the Israeli army not being able to control this very intense violence that is occurring.
You mentioned the Israeli army there not being able to control what these settlers are doing. There are some people, though, who say the Israeli army goes further than that it doesn't prevent settlers from carrying out these attacks on Palestinians, even that in some cases it's complicit. I mean, I mentioned that example of soldiers apparently praying alongside settlers outside of Kusra. Do you think that that is true, that in some way the soldiers are enabling or turning a blind eye to what these settlers are doing?
I mean, even the Israeli media is talking about the lack of discipline in the Israeli army, especially in the West Bank. You have soldiers who live in the settlements who are called upon to do their military service right there. So again, obviously conflict of interest and different political agendas. But the collusion, the turning the blind eye has been documented in many, many cases. But we have to look at the solutions. Right now, the Israeli army, for the last 3 years at the very least, has not stopped the forced displacement of over 7,000 Palestinians from these areas, 7,000 Palestinians who have been forced out of their homes from the settler violence. The army is not willing, not able. I'm not a security person, but at this point, there is no protection for Palestinians. The international community is not providing protection. The Israeli army, who's obligated, is not providing protection. And self-defense, this is a key point, is not an option for Palestinians. If they defend themselves against a settler who is guarded by a soldier and the settler's arm, that person is likely to be shot and killed, arrested for defending their own home. So there's nothing there at the moment. And this is a huge failing on the part of the Israeli government and also the international community, because occupations are an international issue and Palestinians need to be protected.
Well, speaking of international actors, then, I'm interested in your reaction to the US ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. He posted on the platform X saying that actions by those who carried out what he called a horrific act of terror meant to intimidate are disgusting. He said there's no excuse for this kind of thuggish behavior. Now, Mike Huckabee is an individual who, it has been pretty supportive of the settler movement in the past. So are you surprised that he's spoken out pretty strongly here?
As a humanitarian, trying to keep away from the politics, but certainly condemnations coming from the US government, from the EU, from even in Israel, are important because we need to keep pushing the narrative that these actions have to stop. However, I think we're at the point of a dangerous escalation, and Palestinians are now in peril because of the broadening of this violence. What is needed is a solution, not just condemnations. We need solutions to protect these vulnerable Palestinians who are sitting in their homes. This is what they're doing. It's their presence that is causing, that is being used as justified by Israeli settlers. They want them out. They say it explicitly. That they want Palestinians to leave, to be displaced. They want to take over this land. And in this battle that's going on all over the West Bank, we're talking about at least 6 or 7 documented attacks a day. We're talking about thousands in the last years. In this kind of, it's actually a battle on the ground, and Palestinians are unarmed, unprotected, and this needs to be changed in the sense of we need to get protection in as soon as possible.
And given that you are, a humanitarian, as I say, rather than somebody who's focused on the politics of all of this, beyond these attacks by settlers, which are of course extremely serious, and you've documented very clearly for us here, what about freedom of movement for Palestinians in the West Bank? Can you give us a sense of the challenges for Palestinians day to day trying to get their children to school, get to their place of work, perhaps work in Jerusalem if they live in the West Bank? What does that look like day to day for Palestinians?
Yeah, so the whole regime of control over Palestinians is extremely restrictive by the Israeli authorities and by the Israeli army. There are over 800 roadblocks and other mechanisms to block Palestinians from using roads and moving freely in and out of cities, in and out of villages, and access to services, access to school, access to work is, for many Palestinians, either impossible or a big hardship for them. These checkpoints and roadblocks, and as you're showing here, the wall, a very long wall, hundreds of kilometers, most of it inside the West Bank, so dividing West Bank to West Bank, are all designed to protect the freedom of movement of settlers on the roads, and also to cordon off Palestinian areas from development. And so what we end up having is a very difficult psychological, economic situation for Palestinians, and an outlook or horizon. Everything is fragmented, cordoned off, and very, very difficult for Palestinians. We as humanitarians provide aid to help Palestinians cope with the hardships. However, humanitarian aid is really a Band-Aid on the hole in the dam. And what we're saying now is that that hole is getting bigger and bigger. The situation overall in the West Bank is quite on the brink of something hopefully won't happen, but leading to some very dangerous situations.
All right, really good to get your first-hand view on all of that. Thank you very much for your time, Allegra Pacheco, talking to us there. She's from the West Bank Protection Consortium.